because I'm not your God, I'm not your doctor. I'm nobody's auntie. Just ask. Hi, it's another week and it's Ask Funmi. And this week I'm going to do what you all want me to do. Well, not all of you. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but quite a number of you send me questions about beauty, about how to look youthful, about how to look slimmer and all of that. And I said, okay, actually I'm going to dedicate a show to that. And I didn't want to do it on my own. I wanted to introduce, those who follow me on Instagram and Twitter, they already know him. He's my visual artist guru. John Maclean is my friend and my beauty expert. He's going to do this with me today. So John, hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Are we going to be all vain and super and super and fabulous today?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay.
Are you?
Yeah, well, I'm trying. We're gonna tell everybody a bit about my own journey, my own so-called beauty journey today. But I thought that this was the show to bring you on, and you look fabulous as usual.
Thank you.
Right. So the first question is this that I need you to help me with. How do you maintain your youthful look? How do you maintain your youthful look? I mean, that's not a question for you because you are young. And I mean, you can actually help me answer some of that question, but I'll say, right, I mean, I'm going to steal this one from Sean. You can't see Sean, but Sean is around here. Because I heard Sean say this morning, and I thought, bullseye, that's it. I don't maintain my youthful look because, you see, I've never been young. So I don't know what it's like to be old. Do you know what I mean? So I've never felt young. I've always felt this way. I've always felt this age. I've always felt old. So whether I was 5 or 15 or 50, I'm basically going to feel the same way. And I think that really matters because I don't know about maintaining. The word maintaining worries me because it means that you're agonizing. It means that you are engaged with that little bit of yourself. I mean, John, you can bear me witness because you started calling me Gary. Because I'm actually not at home.
Gary is the useless entity.
Gary is my alter ego. Why do you call me Gary?
I don't know, actually. I think because you're very undomesticated. So.
That's what way of saying I'm just useless with makeup? I'm useless with, left to me, I'm going to be going around in some slouchy, sweatpants and, like that. And I never wear makeup.
I wouldn't say you
my hair.
I don't think you maintain your so-called useful look. I think what people mean is, how are you not fatigued? Which I think...
Am I not fatigued? Yes. I don't know what you mean by fatigued. I am tired half the time because I work so hard.
No, but visually you don't look...
fatigued.
At all.
Right. Okay, well, what I can say, 2 things or maybe 3 things. You help because you're a damn good makeup artist.
Well, thank you.
So you help. And also, I nurture myself from inside. So I don't eat processed food. I don't eat junk food. I don't eat processed food. I mean, actually, for me, it's not even a vanity thing. Mine is a health thing. My body doesn't process processed food. It shuts me down, and I can talk about that some other time. I have an endocrine issue that means that I can't eat just anything. So I eat natural food. My rule is if you can't fish it or shoot it, don't be shooting any animals. If you can't farm it, if you can't fish it, then you don't eat it. So I eat absolutely nothing packaged, nothing. I can't because I don't know what stuff they put in it. My body doesn't like it. My body shuts me down. So
and plastics full of hormones.
Yes, all the hormones, all the plastics. And particularly for women, this is crucial. Because a lot of the food, the meat, for example, a lot of the meats that are not farmed in the ways people used to farm, so they inject animals with hormones. They don't let them run around freely.
Steroids, everything.
They put steroids, all sorts of things. So that all goes into the meat, and our body absorbs that, and it basically makes us sick. Very sick. It's not an accident that you see that generally all people, men and women, they look a little more bloated this age than they did ages before now is because of all that stuff that's going into the body. And of course, there's also too much sugar and salt in everything. So they put too much sugar, too much salt, too much additives, too much
And it's
hormones.
not refined salt at
So
all.
yes, everything is over refined. So the more of that you put inside of you, the more your body, I think, would age or look visibly fatigued. So I think that's on one hand. But aside from that, I don't actually like taking showers. I don't like water on my skin. I'm a cat. I don't like taking showers. It takes me sometimes. If I don't have to go anywhere, I probably will take a shower. So I don't obsess about being young. That's all I can say. I don't obsess about being young. However, I respect, and that's a new thing. I respect now, just one's physicalness. Before I used to try and get away from my physicalness, and be all mental, and that is something you helped me with. I think that's something we'll deal with in the second question. So in terms of that particular question, how do you maintain your youthful looks? I'm just going to say, I don't. I don't have the same concept of aging as popular culture has taught people to have. And the only thing I can say is that health is first. For me, it became really, really important when I became ill. And it took a long time to begin to get better. So I don't even look at food. I don't look at beauty. I don't look at anything in terms of, a body size or an image. I look at it all in terms of health. Am I going to feel well to be able to do the things I want to do? So that's all I can tell you for that, for now. But I want to talk with you, John. John, do you want to drink something?
I think I'll go for the...
Oh, you heard about my Takai. I'm going to give you Takai from Ghana. I can't wait until you come to Nigeria.
I'm excited as well.
Are you excited to come? Oh, guys, they finished this drink. I've got to get another one from Ghana. Try it. Tell me what you think.
It's interesting. It's very strong. It's very treacly, actually.
Yeah.
It's nice, though.
Is it?
In small amounts.
Yeah. Okay.
I couldn't drink that out of a tumbler.
Okay, but we are getting used to the so-called African
Alcohol.
taste broad, because you do eat some spicy Nigerian food, don't you?
It's quite... yeah, I do.
Yeah. Jollof rice or...
I prefer yam porridge. Yam porridge, but only when it's hot and when it doesn't have any fish flavours in it.
Okay. So you like
when the
cassava.
yam is a little bit cut finer, not too big.
Not too big. All right. So let me put this here and let's talk. The second question, which is the one I want you to help me with, is about beauty. So this person says, and it came from the Funmi, Ask Funmi form, the anonymous form. What is beauty? I mean, it's a very simple, straightforward question.
But it's broad to answer. It's
So what do you think beauty is?
It's difficult to define beauty as one thing, but if I were to do so, I think I would say beauty is a process of refinement, of order, of appreciation of one thing or many things, but then refined. I think humans have been digging stones out of the ground for millennia, and they come out looking rather rugged, yet they polish them up and refine them, and they become lusted for items. So I think that is beauty. That's how I interpret beauty, is no matter what something is, you take it and you refine it.
So by this definition, it means that everybody is beautiful. Everyone
has capacity to be more refined and to be beautiful within their context. I don't think there's one set of, one way to look beautiful. Mm-hmm. I think there is, it's complex, the range of it. I think that beauty is something that it's also a personal thing, because you can feel really, really unhappy with your appearance one point in your life, and then at another point in your life you can be over the moon with it. So it depends on what it is and who you are and all.
What I hear you say, which is very important, is that there is no one beauty standard. There should be no one beauty standard. And also, even within your own definition of your own personal beauty, there will be times it's a range.
Exactly.
So sometimes you feel great, other times you don't feel so great.
Exactly.
Why is this hard to understand? And I'll give you an example. Everywhere you turn, you hear, and particularly women, when it comes to beauty, the conversation is always around women.
Oh, they don't
As
expect
though,
men to be
yes,
beautiful.
they don't expect men to be beautiful. And we can come back to that. So regarding women, it's always talk about parts of the woman. So it's either her body or her skin or her hair or, its size, skin color, skin tone, hair
Eyes shape,
texture,
everything.
eye shape. It's never.
It's always external. It's never internal.
And my friend Remy, the designer, said to me once, she said, "Funmi, I've been dressing women for 25 years. It means that I have seen every type of body imaginable in my time. I have never seen an ugly woman. What I have seen consistently are women who don't know how to dress their own bodies."
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's the same thing. I don't separate fashion and makeup and hair and all these things together, or health. It's all one. I don't. I use your phrase. I don't like taking parts of whole. It's all one thing. So I think it's the same thing when it comes to physical beauty. It's about refining, accepting what you are, and then refining. That's how I might.
How do you start that process of accepting what you are?
You reject what somebody else has said. It's somebody else's, what's a beauty standard, whether you see it in a magazine or on the internet or wherever. It's someone else's idea, it's someone else's method. It's not your own. Create your own. Or if you can't create your own, find one you like. And I don't think that there's one beauty standard or somebody should embody another standard and feel ashamed of not being that. I think I don't see how it's functional.
Yeah.
I don't see the point of it.
Let me break this down. So there are millions of young teenage girls reading magazines, beauty. I mean, I said my daughter doesn't read them. I'm happy. She's a bit
good thing.
she's a bit geeky. But we'll come back even to that later, because that could also be an extreme reaction to one other thing. So all they read in the beauty magazines is just a particular way to be beautiful. And so you hear all this campaign, all these counter campaigns, and everybody gets confused. I'll give you my own example. So growing up, I was a very skinny girl. You can argue that I'm still not quite big, but I was a properly skinny girl, and I would try and feed myself to put on weight, because everywhere I turned, I was abused. In Nigeria, I was abused for being skinny. I was called all kinds of. I can hear people's voices in my head. It became so bad that I didn't want to be seen. My school uniform, I'd wear 2 shorts and 2 tops under the uniform itself, so I'd be a little bulkier. And growing up, I grew up in an estate that was quite dangerous. There was a lot of crime, there was a lot of murder, and a lot of rape. And a lot of it used to happen in a particular part of the estate. So coming from school every day, I had the choice of getting off at the bus stop nearer the dangerous part, or getting off at the proper bus stop, which was safer. John, for 5 years of my life, I got off at the dangerous point because I didn't want anybody to see me. I risked rape, I risked death, I risked everything, because I didn't want to be seen. I was that insecure about my look, because even my teachers in school, I remember one day I was bent over an assignment in the chemistry lab, and the teacher walked behind me and said, it wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. He said, because he could count my vertebrae, because I was that skinny. And he said, this child, nobody will ever marry this one. As though I wanted to be married. So I'm only saying this so that, because there are lots of women who have similar, and men too,
Yes.
who have similar experiences of having been put down all their lives. And I read all the girl magazines. I enjoyed them. I read all the girl magazines.
I've never read a magazine. I think they're the most dullest. I'll buy a magazine if I'm in it or on it or my work's in it, but I think it's the dullest thing in the world. It's all adverts.
Yes,
you
all
have to
adverts.
pretend, yes, they're great, but
yeah.
they're not my thing, unfortunately.
So they don't, because by the nature of them, they force a particular narrative, and not everybody will fit into that narrative.
My eyes are they're blinkered, so they switch off to anything that's dull. So that's
Yeah. Well, tell me about finding. So if you grow up in that kind of environment, what I've described is universal.
Absolutely.
It's not special to me. It's not unique to me. It's not unique to a body size. Fat girls get shamed. Thin girls get shamed. Dark girls get shamed. Light girls get shamed. Everybody gets shamed.
In one shape or another.
In one shape or the other. However, how do you dare, in all of this shaming, how do you pull back and find your own beauty so you can start to refine it?
Yes. I don't know if I can't necessarily recommend a method, but I think rejecting something that is not enhancing of you, or something that doesn't empower you to be more and empower you to embrace what you are. It's not just about accepting what you are and thinking, oh, life's great, I'm this. It's about refining what you are, and that's also a process of appreciation and self-understanding, and coming to see the value in how you appear, how you look, what you can look like. Mm-hmm. And some days you might want to get up and, I don't know, wear a crown and red lipstick. Other days you might not want to wear anything, mm-hmm. and just go out with a piece of string on. So it's really about, of course, within moderation, but it's really about appreciating what you are and then refining it. I can't say, how do you chuck everything else? You just have to chuck everything else.
Yeah.
You just have to. It's all rubbish.
Yeah.
It's none of it's really solid, and it's an opinion that changes all the time. If it was something that was consistent, decade after decade after decade, it would be fine. But if you look at beauty standards prior to 1914, they were completely different to 1950s.
And they keep changing.
Exactly. Every decade there's a new thing, and it's all about selling. Yeah. So the more insecure you are, the more I can sell to you.
That's what I've always felt, because they sell so many junk to people, men and women especially. Women in particular. Okay, so let's go to that. Do you recommend standing in the mirror? Being at home with a mirror, standing in the mirror and taking a good look at yourself from your head to your toe and think, I like it. Or would I say, should it be, well, I don't like this so much. Maybe I'm going to change this. Maybe I'm going to refine this. What do you, in terms of practically, what would you recommend?
Well, I would recommend, I would recommend looking in a mirror more, particularly ones that I design.
Yes, you do make these great mirrors. That was the first gift you gave me. You gave me a big old mirror, because I wasn't comfortable with looking at myself. It was very interesting, this bit. Because, in changing what that narrative I spoke about earlier, how I changed it was when I got to university. I think it was my first year university. I just said to myself one day, you know what? What if I'm not beautiful? I'm funny and I'm smart. And it changed. I did become a lot more confident, but it was a reaction.
Exactly.
It was a reaction to all the abuse I got younger. So I then started positioning my brain and deliberately ignoring the rest. So I would, even though I had a job in television, I was deliberately, just almost not just masking myself sometimes, but also flattening myself and making a caricature of myself. Because I wasn't at home. I wasn't at home with being beautiful. And, I am beautiful. I know that now. I got eyes, but then it was something, I couldn't even say that for years. So I would say I'm smart. I'm funny, I'm smart, I'm funny.
I think as well, they encourage women, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, women are encouraged to define their value based on their beauty, which I think is pointless, because beauty is just a facet of who you are. It's not a commodity. It's just part of who you are. Yeah. So what if you're beautiful, but what if you can't tell clay from rock? Yeah. It's just what's harped to us. It's not something it's meaningful. You build a relationship with beauty on your own terms and on your own account. Mm-hmm. Not on what somebody else says. And for your
own self. But then also, that other one that I'm speaking about now, do not then become a reaction to other people's stupidity. Yeah. Because I see a lot of young girls too who, because they know this, they've rejected the standards, they've now swung the extreme other way. They say, I'm a smart girl. So they refuse to wear makeup. They say, this is too girly, I won't do this. And some of them, I look at them, I'm like, you're a stunning person. Exactly. And you do not want to become the reaction to somebody else's stupidity. Take everything that you have been given, everything you have is yours to run with.
It's also useful as well. When I do makeup, I don't look at somebody and think, okay, this is a dark-skinned person, this is a light-skinned person. My first thing that I look at is the structure of the face. the structure of the features. Do they have rounded features? Do they have softer features? What kind of lips do they have? What sort of eye shape do they have? The nose? What am I going to do? Because I don't see faces as well in, I'm going to do this style of eye and this style of lip or this color. I see them all working together. And of course, I think about the outfit, the setting, all these things, the lighting, all these things. So my mind works in almost a photographic sense.
Right. Does this also work? I think, of course, I know the answer that it works that way also for bodies, because, I mean, you could be, I had a friend who was my exact height, you know, and similar body shape, were the same clothing size, but the same style never worked on us because I am high-waisted, you know, and she was a little lower-waisted. You know, and it didn't work. And this was one of the things Remy used to say to me, that no, that will
It's
work.
exactly the same. It's exactly
so it's
the same.
exactly how do people then learn what will work for them?
I think exploring and experimenting, and also just not being afraid to try on some things, because you can really try on. I mean, how many times have we tried on things and we've ended up laughing at our choice because it's been so daft, doesn't suit us.
I
You
won a
know
lot of
immediately.
daft things in my time. Yes.
And you can have an idea of what will look great, and then you can try it on, and then it's. I don't know how many shoes I've tried on that haven't suited me at all. So it's the same thing with makeup, with hair, with everything. You just trial and error, and eventually you find yourself.
So why is the term beauty not used in connection with men?
Because men are not expected to be beautiful. Even though that's only relevant to the age we live in, though. Because if you look in history, particularly the greatest civilizations that have ever existed, men were expected and were actually much more, they were presented more beautifully than women were. So it was a form of status.
Yeah.
Whereas in the age that we live in, women are expected, it's also, if you look at history, anything that a man has done very often gets embodied by a woman, like the high heel. Men wore high heels first. Women embodied that to gain height so they'd be taller, take it more seriously, like a man does. It's the same thing, the most recent transition of such a thing is in the 80s, women started wearing padded shoulders to appear broader, more masculine, more powerful. Very often it's a reaction in order to be seen as legitimate at the same level.
So it goes back to the same issue of not valuing women properly.
Exactly.
So women try and
embody
masculinity.
Then these stereotypes become feminine, like the high heel. It's perceived as, in today's world, as a feminine stereotype.
So after women have embodied it, then it is
demoted.
It is demoted again, you know. But then going back, but then if a man tries to embody what is currently considered feminine, then he is demoted too.
He's demoted, vilified, all these terrible things. It's amazing how how cruel the world is to men who choose to embody traditionally female stereotypes, regardless of culture, regardless of age, regardless of where you are. Because woman ultimately is perceived as being less. Therefore, if a man is to embody a traditionally female stereotype, whatever the format, he's vilified. He's seen intuitively as less by the majority.
These are really complex things, but once you understand it, everything becomes clear. Because then for women a woman struggles with her beauty, because on one hand, you know, you want to be fully yourself, but at the same time, beauty itself, even though it seems desired, is not valued as well as we claim it is.
Exactly.
It's not really valued, because yes, you're beautiful, then of course, which is why you hear it all the time when people talk about the likes of Kim Kardashian, talk about Nicki Minaj, talk about, you know, women like, talk about a lot of women who are quite powerful and successful and ambitious and not dumb, including Beyonce, including everyone. They talk about them like that, you know, because it's sort of like, yeah, they embody the so-called idea of feminine beauty, but we're not going to allow them be smart. We're not going to give them, you know,
I think it very often comes back to the fact that we don't necessarily view woman as fully human, or as human as a man, very often.
Yes.
So it's a complex issue. But I just sort of think that if you are somebody that is whatever you are, regardless of how you worry about how you appear to others, it doesn't matter. They're going to have their opinion, and they'll have it. You know, they're not immortal. They'll go one day, as will their opinion. And most people, like, we could meet, I don't know, someone tomorrow. They could have an opinion of you or I. We might not see them again. It doesn't matter. Internalizing somebody else's opinion is actually, and I'm not saying this to sort of encourage empowerment, but it's actually from a sense point of view. It's not valuable. How is it valuable?
So you're not making a slogan. You are making something that's sensible and functional. I remember saying this to a young girl years ago because it did happen to me. A lot of the people who put me down when I was growing up, I honest to Jesus, baby Lord, don't remember their names.
Exactly.
I don't remember. I know I get it all the time. People say, "Oh, you're so arrogant. We used to be friends," and I'm like, if we were friends, I'd remember you. You probably were one of those who were putting me down, and my mind has deleted you because actually, I've gone on to other things, and that thing which you just said now is very powerful. The people and their opinion will pass.
Exactly.
However, what are you doing with your time here?
Exactly.
And how are you making full use of everything? Your brains, your looks, your
life.
Spirit, your essence, your ideas, your life. Actually, that's my idea of beauty.
Exactly.
My idea of beauty is really about the confluence between your mind, your looks, your
complexity,
everything, being able to work with them and refine them, refine your mind, refine your body, refine your spirit. That actually is beauty.
Exactly. I agree. I agree.
Refined. And you know what I used to like? I think it was Harper's Bazaar when they started. Do you know how they used to define that magazine? They would say, for well-dressed women with well-dressed minds.
I like that.
I liked that, and I think that that's more more useful. I think also we should begin to give men permission because men also have insecurities.
Of course, and of course they also have interests. There's always this perception that, I always wonder, men must be fascinated by a lot of the beauty regimes that we have, especially for women. I've often wondered how many men probably pass makeup or see it and are fascinated by it. Because I didn't, I of course wear quite a lot of makeup and I enjoy it very much and it is also my career. But it's also something that I look at with fascination. I love the process. I love the chemicals. I love the whole idea and the amount of work that goes into just creating one lipstick. I love the whole process. It's fascinating from from that point of view of looking at it as a process rather
creative,
than, yeah, exactly.
And a scientific point of view. Yes,
there's always this perception that if you become less, or that you're masquerading as something if you're a man who chooses to look a certain way. It doesn't even matter about a certain way. If you want to wear a bit of concealer, then fine, go for it. But the world that we live in doesn't encourage it, unfortunately. I think now, though, it's changing, though. More men are becoming more vain, which is a great thing.
So when my friend used to talk about being, she used to say it's essential to be superficial. I didn't understand it because I used to think, are you promoting vanity? But later on, I came to understand what she was saying. It was the same thing. It's essential to appreciate your own self and to project
it's also
a refined sense of self.
That vanity is always something that's considered feminine. So it's deemed as demonic or as being wrong. Yet if a man is to go around and say, "Oh, I'm the biggest, I'm the best, I'm wonderful," it's seen as applaudable.
I've never thought about it like that. So you can be Muhammad Ali and say, "I'm the greatest in the world, I'm the greatest." Exactly. And everybody will think, "Oh, that's fantastic." And if a woman said, "Well, I am beautiful," and they'll be like, "Oh, she's vain."
Exactly.
It's the same thing. Put her down, put her down, put her down, shut her up, shut her up. That's what it is, isn't it?
So there's a rule book of what's allowed for men and women.
We've got to be careful about judgments we place on things and judgments we'll accept, because there's a lot of words that we throw about and we've used them throughout for years and years and years, for decades. We've never really thought about it. Exactly what does this mean? And is this somebody else's projection?
Absolutely.
Is this somebody? It's the same thing. They say women are materialistic. However, if men are similarly ambitious, or even in a relationship for what they can get, because at the end of the day, money is not the only form of materialism, is it?
A lot of the
it's
time,
not judged that way.
When you look at what misogyny is, it's actually this idea of a man, of society's, of the world's idea of a man. What a man, what in a woman reflects a man is often very much what is disliked in a woman, what is reflecting a man. So very often I think suppression happens because men are brought up, one, they're taught not to engage with their emotions. Secondly, they're taught not to engage with things that are in any way perceive them to be as not strong or masculine or whatever. I don't really understand these quite primitive terms. So the thing is, though, very often men are suppressive, and they're very external. They don't engage with themselves. Do you ever think of, when you think of introspection, do you think of a man?
It's not, I mean, I'm sure they do, but it's not.
Broadly speaking,
broadly
all of this
speaking.
is generally speaking. It's not
Yes.
specific. So I'm not accusing anyone of anything. But what I'm saying is that, broadly speaking, a lot of the time, the things that we
Or when
dislike.
you use emotional, as though men are not emotional
No,
creatures.
but they are emotional. They're very emotional. But the point of them, what I'm saying is that they're socialized from a young age not to engage with their emotions, not to engage with their desires. It's like all throughout my own life, I had interests that were perceived to be feminine and masculine. I didn't care what it was. I was just interested in that. I was interested in mechanics as well as being interested in cosmetics. I was interested in how things
Yeah,
work.
it fascinates me that you can do carpentry on one hand, and at the same time you can do, beauty. I've seen you do it, and it's like it's a bit of a mind. I would use the
Bedazzle.
word mind. But
But I think it's, we're not here for very long, and my main interest is to actualize myself as a human being, or just as a form of life.
Yeah.
And I think all of what we're taught about how to behave, how to think, based on our gender. Can you imagine this is how I view it, being taught from such a young age that you must embrace this whole idea on the basis of what's between your legs. You must change your whole character. You must live a certain way just because you're born either a male or a female. I don't buy that. I wouldn't pay for that. With the money I earn, I would not pay for that at all. It's counterproductive, and it actually prevents us from reaching our full capacity as a race. It doesn't, very often I just think about the amount of wastage we have. And that in actual fact, if we converted the system to allow people more freedom, we would actually be able to earn more money, we'd be able to have greater prosperity, and we'd be happier.
Yeah, so
freer. It's
trying, for
liberty.
example, I mean, there are people who watch this show, particularly who are younger, who are struggling, with ideas of this is what you must do, this is what you must be. How do we teach them? Well, we can't teach anybody. Everybody
Exactly.
finds their way.
We
But
can
how do we?
recommend.
Yeah, what can you recommend? How do you, particularly when you are young and powerless? And you know what I mean by that? You're still a
Absolutely.
child. You are living under your parents. Your parents probably don't understand. Your society doesn't understand. And you have all sorts of things. Your mind, is wide-ranging and wants to do all sorts of
growing
things.
as
And
well.
it's growing. What do you do? Where do you go?
It's a very difficult question to answer or to provide to anybody. I think it's everyone's own experience is acute to them. However, I think that if I were to make a recommendation, I would have to say that focusing on yourself and being self-valuing.
Yeah, I use that term all the time, self-valuing. Because I was for a long time, I hated the word selfish because I was socialized to always do for others. And later on, I thought to myself, a lot of what I was also doing for others was not nurturing to myself.
Exactly.
And so I thought self-valuing, instead of running away, of course, I'm not selfish. And if anybody wants to read this as selfish, that's their interpretation.
Exactly.
And once again, I'm not here for them.
Exactly. That's ultimately what I would say to anybody that's young. You're not really here for anybody else. And whatever you're going through is temporary. It will pass.
Right.
Like opinions. Somebody can think tomorrow, something.
That is the one that kills me most. The same person today who has this opinion and is forcing it down your throat, they might goddamn change their minds.
Oh, I've learned that.
Oftentimes they change their minds, and within your own lifetime, you would have altered yourself, and they would be going on. You know the funny thing? In Nigeria, at the early points of my career, I had all these women, mostly middle class women. Never happens to poorer women. Oh, you're just posing. Oh, you're just trying to be this. My job is in television. Of course I get interviewed. Half the time I don't even really want to grant an interview. You know how I am. And I grant a few interviews and then all I get is, she thinks she's all that. And then I'll be feeling bad. In fact, there was a time a marketing company came to me and said, Funmi, we have to make you more relatable for women. And they started putting me in ugliest Ankara you can ever imagine. Ugliest Ankara, horrible makeup, everything, because they wanted me to be more relatable, which I understand now means they wanted to just flatten and reduce me. I didn't know it at that time, but then what I found later was that these same women, and oftentimes these are women perpetuating
Their reaction.
yes,
Their reaction.
they're not even consciously doing it, I think. Then I see them, they don't have a job in television. They don't have a job that requires you to be on the cover of a magazine. Then they will be the one on the cover of the magazine. They'll be like the one doing all this poses. And I'm like, bitch, this is what you wanted all the while. And that's their own interpretation of my life, because I'm not even like that.
No, not at all.
And it's the poses. I hate those poses. And then they'll be doing those poses. I'm like, so it was very liberating to understand that. And these days I laugh at it. It doesn't bother me as much as it did when I was younger. So I don't let anybody tell me who to be and how to be anymore. Also because I've come to realize, once again, we have just this short amount of time. The last bit I'm going to talk about with this beauty one before you ask me the question is actually a story that Cynthia brought us. And the story was quite interesting. So there was a story of a young woman and her boyfriend. They've been dating for 3 months. And then all of a sudden, he takes her out to dinner, and then he gifts her, I think it was her birthday or something, so he gifts her a dress, a beautiful dress. And so she opens it, and it was a dress she's always wanted, a dress she wanted to buy for herself too. And then she noticed that it was the wrong size. So he was saying to her, change, wear it, let me see it on you. And she was like, oh no, I don't want to wear. And then when he kept pressing, she then said, you know what, it's the wrong size. I'm a size 16, this dress is a size 12. And then he said to her, well, there's a thin line between beautiful and not beautiful, trying to suggest that she wasn't beautiful and she should lose weight. And immediately I heard the story, I said, oh my God, Cynthia, that is not a story about beauty or about weight or about size. It's a story about a man who is insecure and wants to put this woman down.
Exactly.
In fact, later on she told me that, she's a very successful woman. I said, Bosa, I knew it. It's a story about, it's always happening. You've got to be very careful, very, very observant about why people make the comments they make to you, even those who claim to love you.
It can often, it's from a position of envy many a time, or that they've not fully accepted that. Very often, a lot of the times, sort of outward projections comes from a lot of either internal or external restrictions that they've imposed upon themselves. So somebody that is perhaps a man that's intimidated by a woman's success is feeling bad because he's not at that level. And it's also the idea that a woman is less. Therefore, if she becomes above him in the terms of status, it becomes a very it's not nice water to go through.
And I also think
because a lot of resentment comes out there.
Yes, I also think that when a woman fully embodies herself, her brain, her body and everything, she's really powerful and can be really scary. And so this man is thinking very few men can cope because they are thinking some other man will steal her. So they try and put her down.
I think if I were to add comment regarding relationships or love, we always have this idea that they're going to be forever, and it's actually temporary, just like opinions.
This is the biggest, and I'm not even going to go there today because people are so afraid of the ebb and flow of life. They're afraid of death.
Oh yes.
So death of a relationship.
Really live.
They never, so that sort of thing. You're afraid of that. But everything, if you look at nature, everything is a circle. It comes and goes. It changes form. But that's a whole other. That's a whole other conversation.
Maybe we can do that next time.
Yes, maybe we can do that. I'm having fun. I should bring you back.
I think so.
This is beyond beauty.
I've had a lot of fun.
You had fun. Okay, so you get to ask me, have I gone through everything I need to go through with you?
I believe so.
I think so. Are you trying to tell me to get out of here? I know you.
Well, I think I've been more likely to me to be getting out of here than you.
Okay, so you get a chance to ask me one question.
Do you think that, given the things we've discussed today, that this idea of expansional, refined, self-valuing beauty will ever become popular amongst all cultures of the world, or even just a few, or become commercialized?
I would say no, because it's not just beauty. I think that what makes us interesting as human beings are the complexities we have to grapple with and the difficulties that we have to overcome as human beings. And so that's why I say to young people, for example, give it time. Give it time. Because we are formed or destroyed, by how we react to everything that happens around us. Difference. I think the challenge that we are, in my own mind, I think the biggest challenge of the human race is how to take all these differences and complexities and rise above those ones to something higher. So we rise above race, we rise above gender, we rise to ideas level.
Ideas and thoughts and ideas.
Ideas, thoughts level. So that we begin to levitate. Look, when I was young, I used to think I could levitate.
You probably could.
And I probably think that, in some future, human beings will be able, because everything we need to know is in nature. All of it is there. I want human beings to become more engaged with understanding this realm we live in, so that we can engage with some other realms, because I believe there's some other realms.
Absolutely, me too. It's like as well when you look at, to even hear this conversation or to see us right now, it's happening to be done through a piece of technology. 100 years ago, this would have been deemed as dark, demonic, devilish magic. So I'm very excited to see where the world will go.
Exactly.
And what we can do.
And instead of people talking about skin color, race,
Gender.
and all of the other, I want to, they can talk about it. That's all right. But on top of that, I want to see us building trains or some other thing some flying cars or so I can go from here to Shanghai tomorrow overnight. I'll be in Shanghai.
Couple of hours.
Go and do some business, go and do some work in Shanghai. Remove the borders, remove. I don't want to hear human beings talk about immigration and all that bull anymore. Let us go to China. Let us go to Scandinavia. Let us spread across the world, and let's do some really fabulous
things. You would actually find people become more grounded, because they would just be able to go wherever they wanted to go whenever, and then take home whatever they needed to do. So your immigration would go at the door.
And it's not just gender, immigration, even health, the way we treat health. There's so much we can change.
And there's so much we don't know.
Yeah, so I'm hoping at least that more and more people will rise to what I call the ideas level. You have to be even careful about ideas, that ideas are not about your conditioning, but I'm talking about unfeathered ideas, to the world. I call it the magic level.
They can evolve. Rigidity is unhealthy.
Yes. Well, John, this is fun.
It has been very fun, yes.
You must come back. And thank you for, helping me with my own journey,
Well, thank you for helping me with mine too. I think it's a mutual thanks on that account.
Right. Well, on that note, I'm going to say thank you, John, and thank you, everybody, and see you again next week. Don't forget, more questions, send them to me via the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as the anonymous form. Ask any question. You can be quite detailed in your questions too, and we'll take them one after the other. Remember, you're fabulous. Only you can tell that to you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So